Yo, what is going on, high performers? Another Mentorship Monday coming at you. I am your high performance mentor and registered dietitian, Desi Abeda. So, this last week, we kind of dove into the need for us to start seeing our success within the process of making sure that we're measuring backwards, right? And so, if you have not caught the last Mentorship Monday, keep this in mind. When we first started this series, each and every Monday is building on the last one. And this is what habit stacking looks like, right? And so, with these episodes, if you have not caught our first Mentorship Monday in episodes, I believe it's 36 or 37, I want you to make sure that you take the time to go back there because we're building a foundation here and we're building an opportunity for you to be more successful and to be the high performer that you need to become in your life. And so when we look at these attributes, please make sure that you're taking that time to do that, okay? Because I think it's super important because this last week, I was on vacation. I had my daughter screaming in the background. So for our tryhards and our day ones, thank you so much for continuing just to like let me be me because I'm still a freaking human, and that's really what our big topic is today. But this last week we talked about measuring backward because when we look at your outcome of what you desire, we need to make sure that we fall in love with the process so much so that we are able to take ownership behind currently what's working and what's not working. And that's what we talked about this last episode, is helping you to understand that when you are failing, you're not failing, you are failing forward. You are giving yourself an opportunity to further understand your behaviors and yourself. I'm really imploring you to be in your body, right? And so we're kind of a week removed from Simone Biles to take a step back because she wasn't feeling it. And I said this in a previous post. So if you're hearing this again, I'm just going to continue to repeat it. You know, as elite level people, as high performers, they are taught how to be in their body. They are taught how to be in their mind. They're taught a level of mindfulness that I'm really helping to empower and encourage you all to understand and to learn. They're taught a level of mindfulness that is unseen because they know their body and they're able to advocate for themselves. And so in this same way, this is kind of how I want you to start thinking about your own mental conditioning and your own habits in with it being relative to you becoming that high performer. Okay. So the big topic for today is the goal is adherence. It's not perfection, right? So I just talked about coming off a really really great vacation that I had with my family. In a lot of ways, when I'm working with these high performers in our high performers inner circle, anytime that someone goes on vacation or they go out of town or anything like that, I'm asking them to pick one or two things that they can really focus on. And in most cases, if those people are really trying to emphasize nutrition, then it's like, hey, make sure that you eat a big ass salad while once per day while you're there. Make sure you get your steps in, right? And so we're looking at one or two things so that it doesn't take away from the fulfillment of trying to be present with your family. Because I mean, if you're trying to, if one of your goals is to really change your body and you're really interested in tracking your calories, it's very likely that you're not going to enjoy any type of trip or going out to eat or even getting to a point where you're even present with your family if you're worried about getting things back in MyFitnessPal, right? And so what I try to help my people understand is that we might have goals when we're in routine. We might want the metrics or be specific with what we're working on, and that's okay. But in this case, we're really trying to look at your success based off of a consistency and a adherence measure, not perfection. Okay. And so what does that even look like? So this is kind of what I help break down for people when they are learning new habits or they're even learning sustainability and consistency behind those high reward habits that they really fall in love in. And we want to think of your goal and within this process of trying to get to a point where you are planning, you are doing the mental conditioning needed to see yourself being successful up until that 80 to 85%. And what that means for you is 80 to 85% of the time, you're really trying to plan for your goal. You're really trying to optimize your opportunities by getting your mindset set, having conversations around the home of things that you really want to achieve during that day. So 80 to 85%, you're giving your 100% to that 80 to 85% because what that allows you to do is it allows the other 20 or 15 to 20% to allow you just to be human. Let that sink in a little bit, okay? Because all of us have been really stressed at some point, super overworked. We're just having an off day, right? For our parents out there, the kids are driving you nuts. For those of you that aren't parents, right? So financial struggles, just name it. There's a lot of human error or human things that come into play. And this is where the imperfection starts. And I want to tell you all this right now and be very, very clear with you. If you're in search of perfection and you are providing yourself an unrealistic expectation of thinking that you can be perfect, my amazing friend, you have already lost. You've already lost this habit formation game. You've already lost this high performance game. Okay. So when we look going back at this 80 to 85%, I like to look at it as like the 80-20 guideline. So 80% of the time, you are putting your heart and soul into that 80%. And you are learning how to habit form, how to habit stack so that you get to a point a year, 2 years from now where you're like, I don't even recognize the person that I was 2 years ago. I can 100% say that. 2 years ago, Desi, I have no idea who that dude is. I feel for him because I wish that he would have been more vulnerable and believed in himself a long ass time ago so that we didn't have to go through all this pain and suffering, a self-doubt, imposter syndrome, all of that shit, right? I wish I could have told him that, but you know what? This was part of my process. And so this is what I want to help you understand. So 80%, going back to this guideline, 80% of the year is 297 days. And if my math is correct, the human aspect of you, that other 20% is 68 days that you can just have an off day, that you can go on vacation and have a great time, right? That you're traveling, right? Things are opening up a little bit. So if you're back to traveling, if you're back to going back into the office, like whatever that is for you, like that's the 68 days. It kind of averages out to having like per week, like 1.5, almost 2 days of just like, oh, I'm kind of off, because the other 80 to 85% or the 80-20 guideline within this 80% allows you to be human. It allows you to make sure that you are prioritizing, you're optimizing, and you're being super realistic of yourself. Okay. And this kind of points back to like what I'm talking about when we talk about probably the first Mentorship Monday. We talked about like what are those one or two cascading habits that you know that if you dedicate to on a day-to-day basis, that good things happen. In the first episode, I talked about like, you know what, when I'm able to meditate, and then from there, like if I meditate, I'll go walk my dog, and that's usually about a mile walk. By the time I come back, I'm going to want to strength train. And if I strength train, I'm going to want to make sure that I have a really good recovery breakfast. And then from that point on, it's game time. From that point on, my productivity, my goals are met, and I'm in the right mental conditioning state that I can be successful during that day. That's my 80. That's my 80%. So on the heels of my vacation, I kind of knew like, okay, like we're gonna do some hiking, we're gonna do some rapids. I'm gonna have my activity there, and so my concentration is being for me was being present. Like how can I continue to feel fulfilled by just being present in my body and with my family? And I was really proud of myself that I was able to do that because I knew the second that I got home, I needed to go back to the one or two habits that are going to push me to get back in my routine. And thankfully, I was able to do so because I understood this principle. I understood that 80% of the time, this is my dedication to my body, to my business, to my amazing high performing clients, to you people. Like this is what this means, right? And so the other 20% is just like vacation, like what I just experienced, and some off days. Okay. And so what this means for you, and this is like the big thing that I want you thinking about, right? So the most important factor to your success as you're becoming a high performer is sustainability. And the only way that you can get sustainability, right, long-term success, is if fulfillment is a part of the formula. Because if I ask you like, hey, let's say you don't enjoy running, but as your high performance mentor, I'm like, hey, I really want you to sign up for a 5 or 10K. So why don't you start training for that? And as you're getting those like grueling mileage in and you're like, God, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this. And you're still by the time you hit that 5K and you accomplish it and you're like, wow, that was really not something that I wanted to do. It's not a high reward habit, right? And so that's where fulfillment equals sustainability. They play off one another. Okay, they're really the same thing. So when we look at your habits, break them down so much so that you understand how you interact with not only with success but also with some of the failures behind trying to navigate these habits. Because if you're getting to a point where you feel like you're consistently failing, it just might be that your goal or outcome is way too complicated. You need to dumb it down a little bit. So the example that I usually try to make is if you're like someone who's really, I actually had a high performance client just talking about this the other day. You know, she talked about like really loving her 5 a.m. kickboxing, but life got a hold of her, and 2 years later, she's reaching out to me and she wants to become the high performer that she really needs to become in her life. And we took a look and we said, okay, like, you really want to get back there? Like, what stopped you from getting there? And her answer was so influential. And it's something that really happens with a lot of you as I have conversations with you. But it was like, I just want to go back to where I was. I was like, okay, cool. Like, do you expect to get the endurance, the muscular memory? Like, do you just expect to go back into that? And she's like, yeah. It's like, okay, well, it's been 2 years. Let's go ahead and be realistic about where you're at. And so really what we're trying to do is we dialed that back down and we said, okay, so you're going to start off with morning walks, at least 15 to 20 minutes. We're going to make that a part of your routine. And from there, in 30 days, if you're able to do that, then we can start talking about, like, by day 30, like, okay, can we add in one kickboxing class per week? And then two, and then three. We're habit stacking here. So we're offering you an opportunity to be realistic, not only about your goals, but about your personal bandwidth. A lot of you out there are very unrealistic to think that you can dedicate 3 hours to your body, right? 3 hours to your habits. And sometimes because of work, family, stress, mental health, like whatever that is, sometimes it just might be 30 minutes, and that's okay. And this is what progression looks like. Okay. So keep this in mind. In order for it to be sustainable, long-term success, fulfillment needs to be a part of the mix. Okay. So what's the big kicker here? All right. The thing that we know about this is that studies find that the key to long-term success is not motivation. Let me say that one more time. The key to long-term success is not motivation. Motivation is like that really, that big crush that you had back in high school, that man or woman, right? That person that you were like, dang, like they look really great. And as you got to go on a little bit, and if you wanted to make that something more serious, you would have had to introduce yourself. You would have had to build a relationship with the person in order to even get your crush's worth, if you will, right? To go on a date, to get to know them, to be friends, like whatever that is, you would have had to put in the work to be able to nurture that relationship. It's the same thing here. Like, motivation is that boy or girl, that crush that you had, but you actually have to do something about it, because that crush is going to come by and you're like, oh my gosh, that person is really, like, they're really great to look at. But then as they pass by, it's like, oh, okay, they're not there anymore. And that's kind of what motivation is. And usually motivation is a lie. And we'll get into this in further episodes, because I really want to break down what habit formation looks like. But it's really more so about willpower. And your ability to have willpower has everything to do with decision fatigue. So for a lot of you who are really getting stuck in, hey, I haven't worked out in X amount of days, and you're trying to work out at 6 or 7 p.m. after you've made a bunch of decisions throughout the day, look, you are not lazy. You are fatigued. Okay. So because long-term success isn't motivation, it's about habit formation in response to a trigger. Okay. So your ability to put your gym shoes at the foot of your bed, the night before, is going to get you up. It's going to trigger you to get in those shoes and go on a walk. Right. One of the biggest triggers that I do for me is, like, I set up my coffee machine. It doesn't seem like a lot, but let me tell you something. The moment that I wake up and I smell coffee, it triggers my brain to say, yo, Desi, get the hell up, go have your self-care with your heavy cream, enjoy the morning, put some music on, put some motivational videos in your ear, and then get ready to go. That's in response to a trigger, and it's the same thing with you. All right. So by now, if you've gotten to this point with Mentorship Monday, you know damn well I'm giving you homework. All right. My mom's a teacher. This is how I teach. Okay. So here's the thing. Here's the big thing that I want you to do. So as you watch or listen, I want you to screenshot this episode, whether you're getting it on wherever you get your podcasts, right? We're on every single freaking platform. If you're looking at this on IGTV, if you're looking at this on our YouTube channel, wherever you get your pods. Okay. So I want you to screenshot this, and I want you to comment on one or two behaviors that are in that 80 to 85% region that you have been successful with. Because by doing so, I'm getting you out of that all or nothing thinking. I'm helping you to look at progression. I'm helping you to look at the gray area, because the gray area, my friends, is where the winning happens. Okay. I hope this resonates with you. Do your homework. Much love to you all. Happy Monday. Let's get it.